All right, we're back with the first ever official post-fight breakdown on this channel, and it's for UFC 308 between Ilia Topuria and Holloway. So let's get it kicked off. Let me go full screen. All right, so the first fight of the night was between Hanat Fakhratinov and Carlos Leal. The most controversial decision on this card. Most people thought Leal won. Leal probably definitely should have won. Although I do think it was a pretty competitive fight, more so than what some people think. Leal was getting hit quite a bit. He just wasn't showing the effects of it, whereas when Leal landed on Renat, it did show the effects. And also, another surprising thing in this fight is Renat couldn't really take him down. I think that was the one thing most people were banking on in this fight, and why most people were picking Renat was they thought he was going to be able to take Carlos Leal down. That was not the case. Leal, although does looks a little saucy. And I'm not so sure about that drug test or the drug testing moving forward. We'll see. He was in the PFL beforehand. Had some pretty good wins. I did say he was a pretty decent underdog in my prediction video, but again, I just thought the wrestling would be the difference. Technically, Renat did get the win, so that is one pick in my favor, by the grace of the judges. And, I think one judge had it 30-27 Renat, which is absolutely insane. That's like almost like a pre-written scorecard. That's crazy. I have the stats here. Now I don't know. This is the UFC stats, which I don't personally trust 100%. I personally think, I don't know if it's still a thing, but CompuStrike used to be a thing, and that was a lot more trustworthy than the UFC stats, because I don't know if these were the live numbers, which I never trust at all, or if these were put up after the fact and recounted. Fuck. But anyways, significant strikes. It says Renat landed 2 more. I don't know what they're counting as significant because nothing Renat really threw did anything to Leal. So I don't know what they're counting there. He did get 2 takedowns, but very briefly. Couldn't really control them and didn't really do any damage. So yeah, man, I thought Leal won. I did pick Renat. But I thought Leal won. Is what it is. Leal, though, it'll be interesting to see where he goes after this. That was his first fight. And as far as Renat goes, it's just increasingly looking worse for him in his fights, it seems. But anyways, he got the win officially. So moving on up to the next fight, we had Ismail Nardiev versus Bruno Silva. I picked Bruno Silva in this one, and he looked awful. He looked terrible in this fight. Slow. It, just didn't seem like he wanted to be there. No explosiveness, no effort to get up to his feet. It almost just seemed like he showed up for a paycheck and that was it. Nardiev won. He looked pretty good. Was able to take Bruno Silva down, control him a bit, outstrike him, just outwork him. Nothing too special, nothing too crazy. Bruno Silva looked absolutely terrible in this fight. There's not really much to go on in this fight. Nardiev, I'm not sure where he goes from here. It's kind of hard to gauge, where he is off a win over Bruno Silva in the form that he's been in lately. I did pick Bruno Silva just because when you look at Nardiev's record, you're like, he hasn't fought too much recently. He had 2 losses in the first round of 2022, had 1 fight, I think, in 2023, and then this fight. So it's kind of... This fight was really hard to predict going into it, but Nardiev did look much better and honestly just looked like he wanted to be there, and Bruno Silva didn't. So, Bruno Silva, that'll probably be his last fight in the UFC. I don't imagine they keep him around after that performance. And, Nardiev gets the decision win here. Kind of just picked him apart, took his back, controlled him a bit, got the decision, and so we're going to move on up from this fight. The next one, we got Farid Basharat versus Victor Hugo. I picked Farid Basharat by decision. He won by decision. Again, kind of, what we expect from Farid. We saw him just out-technique him, pick him apart, use his kicks, land that right straight, the right hand. And he was just better everywhere, honestly. He got 4 takedowns. Victor Hugo did look bigger than him. Obviously, this fight, I believe, got moved up to 145. So, yeah, Victor Hugo definitely looked bigger than him, but Basharat just won pretty easily. 3 rounds, typical Basharat performance. Nothing crazy, nothing special, but yeah, he's a really good fighter. And he won by decision. And I picked him to win by decision. So moving on up, we have Kennedy Njoku versus Chris Barnett. Yeah, this wasn't much of a fight. Chris Barnett literally injured himself before the fight even started when he was jumping up and down during the introductions. He fucked up his ankle or his Achilles or something. And, yeah, it was not really much of a fight. Njoku kind of just picked him apart from the outside. And then it got to the point where Chris Barnett couldn't really stand up on his leg, and he kind of just fell over, and the ref stopped it, and that was it. Not really much to go on in this fight. Njoku, I would like to see him fight at heavyweight again. I like him at heavyweight against slower, these slower, unathletic heavyweights. Not that Barnett's, unathletic. He is older, and he was injured. But I would like to see Njoku fight, some better heavyweights and him to stay at heavyweight moving forward. I think he weighed in at like 240 something, so he could probably even build into heavyweight a little more and gain some more mass. Maybe get up to like 260. Yeah, and Kennedy Njoku wins. I picked him. I wasn't very confident in him, but I picked him because he should win the fight. He did win the fight, but yeah, I got the win. Again, it was kind of a weird injury situation. He probably would have won the fight anyway, but Njoku gets it done. So moving on up, we had Abus Magomedov versus Bruno Ferreira. I picked Bruno Ferreira, and he had moments in this fight. He had some moments. He actually hurt Abus pretty bad in the second round, I believe. Had him wobbled and kind of just fumbled the finish. I think he threw a fucking spinning back elbow, and Abus just kind of took his back and then took him down from there. But Abus, he showed toughness. He showed some conditioning in this fight, and he got it done. He kind of outworked Bruno, on the feet from the outside, was outlanding him, and then he got the takedowns, and that's really where he won the fight, was with the takedowns and the top control and the grappling, and that's where he wore on Bruno. And then in the third round, I think he got stunned again on the feet, and then again Bruno got crazy, got taken down, and then immediately just fell into an arm triangle and got submitted with an arm triangle in the third round. Pretty good performance from Abus Magomedov. Not so good for Bruno. I think Bruno Ferreira should probably move down to 170. He's just too short, too small for middleweight. And Abus, yeah, I would like to see him maybe fight, who should he fight? Maybe give him Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen just came off a loss to Nasruddin Imavov. Maybe you could throw that matchup together, Brendan Allen and Abus. If you can't do the Brendan Allen Marvin Vettori fight, I don't know, if that's still scheduled or what the hell's going on there. Or maybe even Jack Hermanson. That could be a good fight. But I'd like to see Abus fight, a more ranked guy at middleweight. Give him another shot there. Let's see how he does. So, anyways, Abus got it done. Looked pretty good. Got the submission, third round. Yeah. I picked Bruno, didn't get it done, unfortunately. So moving on up. Now this was my my big underdog I had. I had Mateusz Rebecki. He won, and he kind of won how I thought he would. I thought it would be a close fight. I thought that he would probably lose a round, and then he'd probably win a couple of rounds based off of damage. Going into this fight, I really don't know why so many people were high on Orlabai. I just really don't understand it. He gets hit a lot. His defense is not very good. He's got pretty good wrestling. He's got, decent hands. He's got some power, but defensively not very good. And also, both of these guys have conditioning issues. Both of these guys wear out and they slow down, and it gets pretty ugly. But Rebecki did win the fight. He won the first round, was landing hard shots, swole up Orlabai's eye, was like swollen shut, and most commissions, in the U.S., that fight probably would have been stopped at the end of the first round. But this Orlabai guy, he's fucking tough, man, because he did win the second round. He came back. You know, he was able to land good shots, get the takedowns. He won the second round. But in the third round, early on, he was getting fucking mauled in the third round. I mean, I thought Orlabai was about to die in the third round for a minute. He was getting fucked up. And most refs probably would have stopped that fight, too. You know, in the USA, I think it was a Saudi ref that fight, and that's probably why they were fucking letting him go to the death. But then Orlabai, he weathered the storm. He's tough as fuck, and then he actually started to kind of come back towards the end of the third round, but it wasn't enough by that point because, again, he got fucking dropped and got the shit beat out of him for like 2 minutes straight. So Rebecki wins. I had Rebecki. And that was my big underdog pick on this card was Mateusz Rebecki. And he gets it done by decision. Really, really good fight. Really, really good fight. Back and forth and really close. So moving on up, we had Jeff Neal versus RDA. Stupid fight. I said before in my breakdown video this was a dumb fight. Should have never happened. And yeah, Jeff Neal's just too big, man. RDA shouldn't be fighting at 170. Especially at his age, he should be fighting at 155 against somebody that's a more appropriate matchup for him, especially considering this potentially could have been his last fight, you know, especially since he got injured. Yeah, Jeff Neal came out, pretty much dropped RDA, like, not immediately, but, like, pretty quickly into the fight, maybe like a minute and a half into the fight, dropped him, and then RDA got back up, and then Jeff Neal took him down, and then I think off a takedown, RDA kind of fucked up his knee. And then Jeff Neal clipped him again with a left straight. And then RDA didn't really get dropped from it. He got clipped for sure, but he was more of just his knee gave out. And then that was the fight. Jeff Neal looked really good. He also looked in really good shape in this one. Looked much leaner than he normally does. And, yeah, he got the win. It was an injury again. So I mean, I think he would have won the fight anyway. He looked really good, but hopefully that's not RDA's last fight. You know, I would like to see RDA get one more fight at 155 against a more appropriate type of matchup, like maybe like a Bobby Green or somebody like that. Jeff Neal gets it done. I would like to see Jeff Neal fight an actual contender at 170 for his next fight. I don't know who, but give him an actual contender because this fight was kind of stupid. Just a throw-together fight. I don't know why the UFC booked this fight. But anyways, moving on up. We had Ibo Aslan versus Rafael Cerquera, or whatever the fuck his name is. Yeah, Ibo smoked him. Knocked him out in like 51 seconds. Basically a minute. Just under a minute. And, yeah. Not much to go on. He just fucking threw hooks and just KO'd him up against the fence, and that was it. Ibo Aslan gets it done. I would say, what's a good matchup for Ibo? Maybe, you know what? I like Ibo Aslan versus Ryan Spann. I think that's a fight they should do. Let's do Ibo Aslan versus Ryan Spann next. So moving on up, we have the main card. Yeah. Shar Magomedov versus Armin Petrosyan. Now, in my breakdown video, I said that basically if I pick Shara, if I would have picked Shara, that there was no doubt that he would lose because I have picked against Shara in pretty much all of his fights in the UFC. I picked against Shara. And I didn't pick Shara. I picked Armin. Because I knew if I would have picked Shara, he would have lost. And since I didn't pick Shara and I picked Armin, he fucking double spinning back fist KO'd him. And that's just how it goes. So yeah, I picked against Shara again. And once again, Shara won. Yeah. With a double spinning back fist. Anyways, let's break down the fight. So Armin Petrosyan starts off the first round. He actually starts off pretty decent. He lands a couple of right hands. The commentators were overreacting. They were like, "Oh my God, Chara's hurt. He's wobbled." I don't think he was really hurt that bad. He did, land a couple of good shots, Armen Petrosyan, and obviously Chara was probably like, "Oh, let's not get hit again by those." But I don't think he was really hurt that bad. He was just trying to reset, circle back out, and reset. And Armen did land a couple of good shots, but then, midway through the first round, Chara started to kind of get his rhythm, started landing a nice, good side kick to the body, was landing nice jabs, and just overall seemed to start to find his timing and his range, and was starting to kind of pick apart Petrosyan by the end of the first round. First round was really, really close. Hard to score, to be honest with you, because Petrosyan did have that good start where he landed a couple of hard shots. But then outside of that, it was really kind of Chara's round from that point onward, kind of picking him apart with the kicks, the body kicks, the side kicks. And, first round, hard to score. Honestly, could have been a draw. I really don't know. I would probably give that round a draw, if I was a judge. I think, draws should be a little more common in rounds like that. I mean, how else do you fucking score that round? It was pretty much dead even. And then the second round happened. And then Chara just, took over. Started picking him apart. It just seemed like Armen was a little bit slower. Not even a little bit slower. Quite a bit slower. And then Chara was just kicking him, picking him apart. And then he did a little feint. Like he feinted. He stepped in like he was going to spin. And then he reset. And then he stepped in again. And then he actually did spin and throw a spinning back fist. And Armen kind of partially blocked it. But then when Armen blocked it, he left his other hand down. And then Chara just peeked. And then threw the other back fist the other direction. And landed clean. Dropped Armen. And then I don't even know if he landed any follow-up shots, to be honest. He might have landed a couple of follow-up shots, but I don't know if he did. The referee stepped in pretty quick. And, crazy finish, crazy TKO. At this point, though, they are going to have to give Chara probably a tougher matchup, somebody that can grapple a little bit, because I spoke on this before, the UFC marketing, they've been giving Chara pretty much nothing but strikers. The best grappler he fought was Bruno Silva, who's not really a good grappler. And, so we'll see who Chara gets next. He called out Izzy. I could honestly see the UFC doing that fight. I really could. I could see them making that fight on like a co-main event for a pay-per-view. Chara and Izzy. I could see that happening the way the UFC works nowadays. But a more realistic matchup would be somebody like Joe Pyfer. I think Chara should fight somebody like Joe Pyfer. I think that would be a pretty cool fight. Joe Pyfer's a prospect. He can grapple a bit. He can strike. He can do everything. Let's throw Chara in there with somebody like Joe Pyfer and see, how legit he really is. And see if he can, outstrike these higher-ranked, higher-level middleweights. Yep, I picked against Chara. He fucking won. I don't know when this is going to end. I don't know, man. I can't pick him because his fights are going to get increasingly more difficult now. And it's only a matter of time before he fucking loses. And the time he loses is going to be the time I pick him. So I can't pick him. And that's what I did in this fight. But he fucking somehow wins. So whatever. Anyways, we're moving on up. Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige. I picked Lerone Murphy by decision. He won by decision, although not at all the way I thought this fight was going to play out. This fight was actually a dog fight and a really good fight. I thought it was going to be a boring fight, to be honest with you. I thought Lerone Murphy was going to win much easier than he did. I thought he was going to just kind of pick him apart, circle around, teep him, jab him, stay at range, and just kind of force Dan Ige into a point fighting match. And that is not at all what happened. Dan Ige actually made it a dog fight and dropped Lerone Murphy and had him hurt really bad. And it was actually a really close fight. This was a really close fight. And, tough one for Dan Ige because this fight was winnable for him. And, Lerone Murphy fought like a dog, though. I'll give him that. He got hurt. He came back, and he landed his own damage. At the end of the third, man, Lerone Murphy was fucking teeing off on Dan Ige. It almost looked like, he possibly could have gotten Ige out of there with a little more time. Hell of a fight. Way better than what I expected. Again, I thought Lerone Murphy was just going to kind of pick him apart, make it a real technical kickboxing match for 3 rounds and just, do enough to get by each round and win 10-9. Not at all what happened. I'm a little concerned for Lerone Murphy moving forward, because his footwork did not look as good as I thought it would tonight. Or not tonight. Fucking, on Saturday. Jesus. Anyways, yeah, Lerone Murphy gets it done by decision. And I picked him by decision, but not at all how the fight, played. I didn't think it was going to play out the way it did at all. It was much more of a dog fight. Hell of a fight, though. Moving on up, we have Magomed Ankalaev versus Rakic. Yeah, not the greatest fight in the world, but, Magomed, he won. He lost the first round, I thought, 10-9. It was a close round, but Rakic, I thought he did enough to get that round with the kicks, low kicks, body kicks, kind of keeping Magomed at range. Then the second round and third round, though, was pretty much all Magomed. He just walked forward, got in boxing range, and kind of just picked Rakic apart, outboxed him, and outworked him. And, there was no grappling. I think Rakic shotted for one takedown, got stuffed, and that was about it. There was really no wrestling attempt from Ankalaev, and he gets the win by decision. I still think he should fight Pereira. 205, like I said, it's a fucking wasteland, so who the fuck else are you going to match up Pereira with? So I think Magomed gets the next title shot. I don't know if he beats Pereira, because I don't know if he's going to really wrestle like that. You know what I mean? I don't know. We'll see. I could see his boxing style maybe giving Pereira a little bit of trouble. The way he moves, the way he moves his shoulders and kind of moves his head and steps in and throws, those quick combinations with his hands. That's not really, that's kind of rare at 205 to see. So maybe that gives Pereira some trouble. Maybe he does wrestle against Pereira. I don't know, but Ankalaev wins by decision. Not the craziest fight in the world. I picked Magomed. He gets it done. Moving on up to the co-main event, I picked Whitaker. Unfortunately, this fight pretty much went how I imagined that it possibly could go. So in my breakdown video, I did say that Whitaker's got to get past the first round. I knew Whitaker would lose the first round. I absolutely knew that. Even picking him, I knew that. But I expected him to be able to get out of the first round. And he almost did. He was doing pretty good. He was defending the back well. He was, he did give up his back at one point, and I was like, no. I would rather just have... And when you're fighting Khamzat, I would rather have you just lay on your back and just stall out the round and lose the round, and then try to hustle to get back up to your feet. Because Khamzat's just so good at taking the back and so good at finishing the fight, and he's dangerous from that position. So a lot of these higher level fighters, their first instinct when they get taken down is just to try to get back up immediately. And most of the time that is the correct thing to do in MMA, because you can't really win the fight on your back. Most of the time at the highest level, you're not going to submit people off your back unless you're just some fucking wizard, jiu-jitsu grappler. You're not going to submit people off your back at the highest level like that. So their first instinct is to get back up. But against certain fighters, you just can't fucking risk, you can't risk giving up your back. And Khamzat's one of those guys. I would much rather have Robert and other fighters just fucking lay on their back, accept guard, half guard, and just hold on and basically try to stall out the round. Because Khamzat, like I said, he's a sprinter. In a 5-round fight, Whitaker has a really good chance at beating him. A lot of people have a really good chance of beating Khamzat in a 5-round fight if they could survive the first round. Maybe the first round and a half. But he couldn't. Khamzat cracked him with an elbow and then took his back at one point, immediately sunk in. It actually didn't sink in the choke at all. It was over the chin and just crushed his jaw, broke his jaw. It was an injury that Whitaker's had before when he was younger, apparently. And then, I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but there's a picture of Whitaker showing his teeth and his mouth, and it's basically just all fucking crushed and bloody and all fucked up. And yeah, sucks for Whitaker. Really, really impressive for Khamzat. Really, really impressive. He might have just leaped Strickland for the next title shot. And honestly, I wouldn't really blame the UFC at this point. I like Strickland's fighting style. I like what he brings to the UFC. But, I mean, he's having decisions with Costa, and, you know, he's having these close fights. And Hamzat's fucking running through these people in, you know, the first round. Like, let's be real. How do we think a fight between Whitaker and Strickland would look? Like, Whitaker might beat Strickland. Like, that fight would probably be relatively competitive, you know, over the course of 5 rounds, whereas Hamzat's just steamrolling him. Now, obviously, styles make fights, and I'm not saying that Hamzat would necessarily do that to Strickland or Dricus, although he fucking might, but yeah, man, I like to see Hamzat fight for the title next. You know, I don't mind seeing Strickland and Dricus run it back, but I think Hamzat, regardless of who wins, should be getting the next title shot. Yeah, sucks. I had Whitaker, and he fucking lost in the first round. Moving on up to the main event, we have Topuria and Holloway. Yeah, I picked Topuria. I did pick him by decision. I didn't think he would get the finish, but he did. And holy shit, is he fucking good. He is really good. Ilia Topuria is fucking really good, man. Yeah, it was I don't want to say it was like it was a competitive fight while it lasted. Holloway was landing some pretty good jabs. He was landing some good shots, but Topuria was getting the better of him. He was landing the harder counters. He was landing a really good low kick. He got a takedown at one point. Like, Topuria, he's really good. His boxing's really good. His head movement, the way he rolls punches is really good. And Holloway just seems slower. Just seems slower than him. Couldn't really track him too. That's the thing about Holloway's, you know, his volume style. You know, it's much easier to do against somebody that's a stationary target. But when you're moving your head and you're rolling your head and you're changing levels and you're dipping and you're throwing strikes and you're countering off it, it's really hard to just throw volume against somebody like that because you can't fucking hit them. You can't hit their head, you know what I mean? So Holloway was having a really hard time with his volume. He was having a lot more success just flicking the jab out from range and landing that than his typical, you know, his volume punching and striking style that he normally has. And yeah, Topuria looked good. Cracked him in the third round with the right straight, wobbled him, and then just didn't let him off the hook. Got him backed up towards the fence, started teeing off to the body, and then he came up top with a left hook, dropped Holloway with a left hook, and then finished him off with the grounded pound. And finished the first person to TKO Max Holloway to get him out there with strikes. Awesome performance from Ilia Topuria. And yeah, I would like to see him stay at featherweight for a while. Let's see him fight maybe Diego Lopez, a Volk rematch. I don't want to see the Islam fight yet. And honestly, I think Topuria might be a little too small for lightweight. I think he's perfect at featherweight, and I don't think he should move to featherweight or move up from featherweight, at least right now. But anyways, yeah, guys, that's the predictions and breakdowns for UFC, or not predictions, breakdowns, the fucking post-fight breakdown for UFC 308. And yeah, the first one I've done for a post-fight breakdown, and I'll probably do some more in the future. I don't know if it'll be for every card, just because I don't know if every card warrants a post-card breakdown. But we'll see. We'll see. So anyways, I will give you the next prediction and breakdown video for the next card, whenever the fuck that is. Let me see when that is. When is the next fucking card? Let's see. Moreno and Albazi. Yeah, that's not getting a post-fight breakdown. I'm just being real. I'll give you the prediction video. November 2nd is that card. So I'll give you the prediction video, but yeah, probably not going to do a post-fight breakdown for that card. We'll see. Anyways, you guys have a good one, and I will see you next time. What the fuck?